Good morning, friends, and welcome to After GMS. We are live right now on the WFMY News 2 Facebook page. Love seeing everybody already joining us, especially our regulars who make it a point to tune in every day. We appreciate you.
Yeah, it's so fun to be able to kind of get to know each and every one of you through this every day. We have a lot of fun and we have a lot of great conversations. We'll have those coming up. But the first conversation we have to have is about this weather because, I mean, just look at that sky cam on downtown Greensboro. It's just stunning and it's just as pretty. It feels just as pretty as it looks outside.
Oh yeah, definitely. Looking good and feeling good out there the next couple of days for sure. We'll see a decent amount of sunshine today, just a few clouds from time to time. Temperatures starting out in the 50s this morning, which is right around maybe about 8 or 9 degrees below our average high for this time of the year. So starting out pretty warm right now. And then as we go through the afternoon, it will just go up from there with highs generally in the mid 70s. It will be breezy from time to time, and the air mass that we are in is fairly dry, so that you put those two things together, that will increase the fire danger. I do want to mention that it is not encouraged that you do any type of outdoor burning. That would be a bad idea because those fires could quickly get out of control. So don't do that until we get some more rain in here. And I think that will happen as we go through early next week. The weekend, much cooler, maybe a shower or two. For now, we'll keep the rain chance at 20%. Stay tuned. We may adjust that some, and we also may adjust some of the rain chances as we go into early next week as we get closer to that point. But either way, next week looks cooler and more active. So enjoy the this warm stretch of weather while it lasts. But once it goes away, don't worry, it'll come back again soon as we continue to head closer and closer to not only the beginning of spring, but closer and closer to summertime.
Well, 1 year ago today, the World Health Organization declared a coronavirus a pandemic. And we want to know, what was the last normal thing you did before everything changed? Maybe you traveled somewhere, went to a party, a friend's house, or visited your loved one at a nursing home. You can share your memories in the comments below. And on March 11th, 2020, there were 118,000 cases reported globally in 114 countries. In the U.S., there were a little over 1,100 cases. 33 people had died at that time. In the days and weeks and months to come, things would completely change. Travel bans, mask mandates, stay-at-home orders, quarantine culture emerged, and just a little over 2 months after the WHO called a pandemic, the U.S. crossed the 100,000 COVID-19 deaths mark. We asked you what the last normal thing you did was. Lisa shared a photo with us saying, "The last normal thing I did was take a trip to Arizona to visit my daughter and other family members. Had no idea that it was going to be such a long and scary year ahead." Karen says she took a trip to North Georgia to the mountains for a few days with her best friend. Patrick went to a concert. And another viewer says, "We had inside church. I've been preaching outside for a year." Tony says he went to a movie. And this person spent time with family and friends and got her nails done and a massage. Oh, that sounds nice. And then a teacher says the last normal thing she did was give students a fist bump and squat down next to their desks to help them.
Aww.
It's kind of crazy to think that things like that have been gone. I mean, with the virtual learning, now that teachers are back in the classroom as well as students, it's still different though.
Yeah.
You can't just go and squat down near a kid's desk and
No.
talk to them. Of course, there's social distancing in place. So a lot of the normal things have changed. The last normal thing I did was actually on St. Patrick's Day weekend last year. It was the last time I kind of went out and about with friends. And then I was thinking about it too. Right before the movie theater shut down, I had gone to see a movie. It was a movie about Jeremy Camp. He is a Christian singer. It was about the life that he lived. And even then, the movie theaters weren't very crowded, and after I went and saw the movie, I thought about it and I was like, that probably wasn't my best idea, but nothing had been shut down yet, and really right after that, things completely changed. Megan?
Well, I mean, back then we were still figuring out how this virus was spreading. You know, doctors were kind of at odds over whether it spread through particles or whether it spread through surfaces. So a lot of us were doing both, you know, sanitizing everything, not necessarily wearing masks full time at that point. I remember a year ago this weekend, on March 14th, was my son's baptism. That same weekend, my parents were in town for that. We went out to an indoor brunch at a local restaurant. That was the last normal thing I remember doing, because that next week, and I was still on maternity leave at the time, things started shutting down. And only then did I really even realize the possibility of anchoring a newscast at home would be a reality in the weeks ahead. Because that's what I noticed a lot of people were saying on our feed when I posted this question on my page, was that they left work a year ago to work from home for just a little while things settled down, and they're still working from home. A year later, they have not gone back to their workplaces. I think that's such a reality. Ed Matthews, you brought up a great point earlier, saying we will never again take these things for granted.
Absolutely not. I think one of the last things I did was, just a simple lunch or dinner with a group of friends, and going to the movies, doing social things, getting together with friends and family mean a lot to me. They mean a lot to all of us. And then all of a sudden, boom, the brakes are put on everything. Everything starts to close. If you'll recall, the ACC men's basketball tournament here in Greensboro just shut it down really minutes before a game was getting ready to start and get underway. And then we just went through the next several months, all the wonderful outdoor events we have in spring and summer here in the Triad in Greensboro. I think one thing that really hurt me was a Fun Fourth celebration being canceled, but baseball, of course, the ACC basketball, March Madness. It was just really a sad time to see all these things shut down. On top of that, of course, the restaurants and businesses as well. Never, ever, ever take it for granted again. And really, this is kind of part of our freedoms in America, is being able to get out and do things and go places and all that. It really makes you think about what if.
Yeah, Turan, you said you saw the writing on the wall when that NBA game stopped mid-play.
Yeah, it was Oklahoma City was getting ready to play somebody in Oklahoma City there, and the game kept being delayed. Everyone's like, what's going on? The players that come out started to warm up, and then they got sent back to the locker rooms, and eventually they canceled the game, and it was like, why? And one of the players had tested positive for COVID, and obviously, basketball, you're coming in very close contact with people. And from there, things really started to evolve quickly. Once the NBA decided to suspend the season, you saw all the other sports leagues started doing the same. And then, obviously they shut down the ACC tournament here soon thereafter as well. So that's when, I knew that, okay, things were going to be different for a while. So, we're getting through this. I feel like I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We're going to get to the other side of this, but some things aren't going to go back to exactly the way they were, for better or for worse. And so, we'll see what normal, I got to use both my hands for the air quotes, right? Normal looks like once we get to the other side of this.
Even after full vaccination, it's going to be a while before I get on an airplane again without a mask on.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's something that will be commonplace, and I'm glad. There are a lot of illnesses that can be transmitted through these means of transportation that we have been made much more aware of with this whole pandemic. A lot of conversation on our feed.
So many people, and I want to say something really quick about the mask thing. I am a person that literally catches everything. I get sick all the time, and I've noticed though, since I've been wearing a mask, I'm not catching those common colds or just sinus infections like I typically would. So I really am, pro mask wearing, especially on an airplane when you're kind of just in there with a bunch of people and a lot of different stuff. So that's something that I'm going to be thinking about in the future. But a lot of people are talking about the last things that they did. Logan says she went to A&T's homecoming. That was the October before the pandemic. Let's see, Dana says, I was on a work trip and my organization told me to catch the first flight I could back to Atlanta. The plane was eerily quiet and empty. Yeah, I bet. And then, oh yeah, they reminded me what that movie was that I saw. They said it was called I Still Believe. If you haven't seen it, I really recommend it. Bobby said the last thing he did before the virus hit us went to a friend's wedding. Renee went to Barbados, and Mary says she went to church, and things like going to church. A lot of churches they're still closed, or they're doing outdoor services. So things have definitely changed in the past year.
Wow, to think about going to a wedding, like a normal wedding, just almost seems unbelievable, but it is a reality now with this vaccine rollout. I think, like Turan said, there is light at the end of the tunnel, hopefully sooner rather than later. Let's get to our headlines before our second conversation. Governor Roy Cooper visited the FEMA clinic at Four Seasons Town Center Mall yesterday. He toured the site on its opening day in Greensboro and thanked National Guards members and Air Force service members working on the site. He also spoke to some of the people who came to get their shots. The federal vaccine clinic is the first of its kind in our state and will stay open for the next 8 weeks. FEMA officials expect there will be discussions about keeping it open longer after an efficient first day. We are just minutes away from day 2 of the 8-week mass vaccine clinic at Greensboro's Four Seasons. This first week of the clinic, there is a special focus. WFMY News 2's Denise McMiller has more on what that is.
The beloved community center of Greensboro says that half of the 7,500 vaccine appointments booked for this week are set aside to go to our underserved communities. The nonprofit focuses on justice and equity issues. They worked with the state to ensure shots were accessible for the Black, brown, poor, and handicapped in our communities this week. The organization says access to the internet and transportation are just some barriers folks have to overcome. The organization's co-executive director and I spoke about how they've been working to mend the gap.
Churches agreed to submit lists. At one point, we even solicited young people to make calls on behalf of the health department to make sure the people who didn't have access to computers would still get those important calls, instructions about how to get the shot. So we've continued that and expanded it.
This is an effort we've seen across the city. Last month, Mount Zion Baptist Church in Greensboro set up a site to vaccinate underserved communities. And all of these efforts have proven to be successful. Governor Roy Cooper says that more than 20% of the 1 million people vaccinated in North Carolina are African American. And you can visit our website at WFMYnews2.com to find out how you can make an appointment.
Turning now to a big change for students soon. Governor Roy Cooper and leaders from the General Assembly announced a new bill will reopen public schools across North Carolina for in-person learning. In this new version of the bill, elementary school students must go to Plan A. Middle and high school students can choose A or B. The difference is Plan B requires strict social distancing. Plan A does not. The bill lets families continue remote learning if they want. It also lets districts go remote temporarily if students or staff test positive.
Okay, let's get to our next talker this morning. I think you'll have you feeling a little bit nostalgic this morning because we're remembering the inventor of the Philips cassette tape. According to reports, Lou Ottens passed away at the age of 94 last Saturday. So in his honor, we want to know, what are your favorite memories of using cassette tapes? You can let us know in the comments. Now, as an engineer, Ottens worked to minimize the large reel-to-reel tapes used for music in the early 1960s. He wanted to make music more affordable, portable, and accessible. As you know, he eventually nailed down that technology, leaving a lasting legacy with music lovers. Again, we want to know how his legacy lingers with you. Text your favorite memories or write them in the comments below and let us know your memories of cassette tapes. Now, Sarah actually sent this in a text to us earlier this morning saying, I liked the cassettes. I still have this unopened one. Very convenient back then. Elton John. I love that. Little throwback here this morning. So yes, I do know what a cassette tape is. This millennial does, I promise you. I grew up listening to cassette tapes. My probably biggest memory, and my mom tells me this all the time, that growing up, I was obsessed with Lion King. I mean, I guess I still am. But she said that we had the cassette tape of the soundtrack of The Lion King when it came out. And she said I had to listen to it so many times, over and over and over again. I literally wore the tape out. It wouldn't play anymore, so she had to go buy another one. So we had 2 Lion King cassette tapes. But I wonder if even kids these days know what that is. And Nadine brought up a funny point. She remembers having to wind them back when they got tangled with a pencil. Do y'all remember that?
That was the way to
Kids
do
will
it.
never understand, will they? They just swipe and scroll and it goes back to the beginning.
I mean, even CDs are becoming obsolete. Isn't that crazy? So, you know, a lot has changed over these past few years, and I can only imagine, actually I can't even imagine because it's not even reality, what it's going to be like for our kids, even in the near future, given the rate at which this technology is advancing. I still have, because my mom saved it, a lullaby cassette that I used to listen to as a little girl when taking my naps, and I really want to play it for my son, but I don't have a cassette player. So I was going to try to see if I could buy a lightly used one that somebody still has that still works. But does anybody remember the Lullaby Baby Beluga? It is like the old version of Baby Shark.
What?
No. Taran, you remember Baby Beluga?
Yeah, it's like a big whale, wasn't it?
Yeah, baby. I can't sing.
Yeah, but I know what you're talking.
I shouldn't have started. All right. Any cassette tapes though, Taran, you remember or you wish you still had?
So many. You know, I think one of my big memories was I would make my own mixtape, you know, by pressing record on, you know, once listening to the radio, whatever, you know, if the song that I like was coming on the radio, I'd record that song and then all that stuff. And there's a lot of cassettes. The Space Jam soundtrack, the Men in Black soundtrack, the Power Rangers soundtrack, of course, you got to have that, right? And my auntie had a Sam Cooke cassette. And I think that was, you know, we always listen to old music on the radio, but that was one of the first times I really started to learn songs that were from the 60s and things like that. I used to love listening to the best of Sam Cooke. So that's definitely a memory I have for sure.
And Ed, I know you have a good memory to share with us.
Oh yeah, let me take you way back. Let me take you way back. First of all, I want to compliment Taran on his excellent taste in the what we call now the oldies, man. Some of the best music, 60s, 70s, and 80s. But you know what? The cassette was a really big deal when it came out, because before that, what did we have?
The 8-track.
The 8-track.
Yeah.
Oh, that thing was gigantic. Okay, yeah, I had my little box where you put the 8 tracks in. It took up the entire front seat of my car, so no one, you know, driving around in my '66 Mustang, and
Ooh, nice.
here we go on the passenger side. There's this gigantic box with about 10 you know, 8-track tapes in it. So when the cassette tape came out, it's like, this little thing? Oh, how cute. But it worked well. It worked very, very well.
Hold on, I'm sorry. I don't want to. You buried the lead here. You had a Mustang?
Yeah, I did. yes, I did.
All right.
Yeah,
I love that.
see
Had chrome wheels on it. Man, I was kind of jacked up a little bit in the back.
Yeah, styling.
Oh, yeah,
profiling. I
Ed's
see you.
styling.
That's cool. He was one cool dude.
But my friends never rode anywhere with me because it was full of 8-track tapes. So thank God for the cassette.
You know, at that time in your life, it's more important to play the music and look good driving around than
yeah.
actually like have people in the car.
Yeah, it wasn't a convertible, but it's like, sorry, you guys can't ride. I got all my 8-tracks in here, so the cassette was a blessing.
Who cares about functionality when you look nice?
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's so funny to think like that's how it was then, and now you just connect your phone via Bluetooth and and a song plays and you just tell it what to do. It's so crazy.
A lot of comments, Stacey, coming in on our feed.
Yeah, so a lot of people were talking about this. Let me scroll up. Was so involved in the conversation, forgot to look at the comments. But Cammie said, my sister loved her MC Hammer tape. She played it so much, I hid it from her, Cammie. Then forgot where I hid it. We found it again when we were moving. Well, I'm glad that you ended up finding it. That's so funny. Let's see, Carol said, my first car used an 8-track, so I had to use an adapter, waiting forever for your favorite song to come on, LOL. Tanya said, my Tucson had a tape deck. And I was still listening to them until a few years ago when my car died. Oh no. I do remember though, you know, sometimes the cars still had the cassette player and it was like a aux cord that you would put into there so you could play your music off your iPod when that came out.
Yeah, they don't even make cars with CD players anymore.
What?
That is how technologically advanced they are.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they don't come with CD players.
I mean, can you even still buy CDs?
I think so. I think you just have to dub them onto your iPhone if you want to play it.
Figure that out again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Things have changed.
Things change. Things change.
We could talk about this all day, clearly, but we know you have things to do, so let's get out the door with the final forecast.
Oh, I tell you what, I was just thinking, I wish I had that Mustang back. Yeah, I was a dumb 16-year-old and sold that thing. All right, let's look ahead in the 7-day. Yeah, you can cruise around in a convertible today or tomorrow because we're going to be in the mid and possibly even upper 70s, just a mix of sun and clouds. But the cool down comes for the weekend. Cold front moves through on Friday night. We'll drop back into the low 60s on Saturday and only near 60 on Sunday. Small rain chance over the weekend, but I think really we're going to see more clouds than anything else. And then low pressure heads our way from the southern plains early next week, and that'll increase our rain and shower chance on Monday and Tuesday, and that rain's going to cool us off even more. We're going to drop back into the low and mid 50s on Monday and Tuesday. Wow.
Even then, we're still average this time of year. We've just been spoiled
a little bit below. Our average
Okay.
is 59, so we go a little bit below. And as Taran mentioned earlier on the Good Morning Show, that's exactly what we see. We call spring one of our transitional seasons. So, you know, up and down in the temperatures. That's going to continue for a while.
I've always thought spring was the hardest season to dress for.
It is.
Because the temperature fluctuation between the mornings and the afternoons is so drastic. And then you have the shoe situation. Do you wear open-toed or closed-toed? When do you retire the boots? I mean, it's the hardest season for fashion, I think, as a woman.
Yeah, no, it really is. And then the fact that, you know, you want to start wearing shorts, but you're like, gosh, my legs need some sun. So it's just a whole nother conversation we could have another day. We know that you need to get out there and get things done this morning, but we want to thank you for joining us here on After GMS. It's always a fun time.
Have a great day. See you later.